take a moment and we'll get things started. We'll open our hearing description. She's Gretchen's flying in the navigator seat, just behind us. So somebody's mic is. Okay. We will see. Larry's not here, and who else? Should we, why don't we get started and then we'll add Stephen in. We have 1, 2, 3. We're gonna kind of need him to. Yeah, eventually. We're gonna need him right. Attorney Mead mentioned the applicant's planning on going second, because I'm not qualified for.
Right, we're not qualified, so we still need Steve.
All right,
Wasn't proceeded after. Sign an affidavit for 10 minutes, right? You have any issue with that?
No, but he's on his way, right?
Yeah. Okay. This way we can get things started. Okay, calling the Newburyport Zoning Board of Appeals to order for the evening of Tuesday, December 9th, 2025, it being 7:03 p.m. Our appointed time being 7 o'clock. We're going to get things started. I'll begin by calling the roll, establishing our quorum, and indicating who our 5 voting members will be. Of course, Mr. Delisle is on his way, so we'll make that note for the record as well. Calling the roll, the Newburyport Zoning Board of Appeals, Mr. Jared Ackerman. Here. All right, Mr. Gregory Bitt. Here. Mr. Ken Swanton. Here. Rob Champetti, I'm here. That is 4 members present, which is a minimum quorum. We are expecting Mr. Delisle, which will be our 5th voting member. So for purposes of the record, our 5 voting members will be 4 of us plus Mr. Delisle. Establishing we have a quorum, we're going to continue the public hearing, and then what we're going to do for ladies and gentlemen, for those of you in the audience and anyone who's online, because we have one of our necessary continuing members, Mr. Delisle, who's en route, just consulted with legal counsel just to confirm, but we can simply have Mr. Delisle execute an affidavit as to listening to the proceedings for the first, let's say, 5 or 10 minutes until he arrives, which allows us to get things started closer to on time versus sitting idle and waiting. So that's what we'll do. And with that, we will reopen our public hearings. We have 2 matters on this evening. The first matter that we're going to take is the continuation of the Port Plaza Realty Trust, care of Lisa Mead, Tellerman and Costa, 45 Story Avenue. This is a continuation of an ongoing comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40B. Our last hearing together was on November 12th, 2025. And again, a comprehensive permit to construct 212 total residential units in one building. Following that, just for the record, is 28 Jefferson Street, which will also be a continuation, but we'll get to that when the time comes. So circling back to 40B and 45 Story Avenue, what I propose to do this evening, since this is we're rounding the end of our statutory time window within which all hearing materials must be completed. This is our last substantive meeting, after which we will have gathered all the information that we are able to gather, including all peer review and peer analysis, as well as submissions, legal memo, and related materials by and between the applicants, as well as the board and the department heads with the city, as well as our city peer review experts. What we will be doing is we will be commencing or starting deliberations at the meeting, the special meeting we'd set for December 15th. Because I believe the normally scheduled meeting, which is on a Tuesday, is the 23rd. And out of an abundance of wisdom, we decided to cancel that and instead schedule a special hearing for 12:15. So what we're going to do this evening is we're going to listen to the applicant's presentation of any new materials. Then we will have a public comment section. And we will give the any members of the public, both in the room and online, will have the opportunity to speak, share any comments or thoughts, and that's in connection with anything that we may have taken in as a board up to this moment. So public comments are not limited to anything we hear this evening. It is inclusive of everything that we've heard up to now. We will be asking our city's traffic consultant for further definitional information regarding some materials that I think are not at all strange to anyone who's been following along, related to a left turn lane that has been proposed and not deliberated, but toiled over by this board to try to best understand in engineering and placement. And at the end of this evening, we will plan to close the 40B hearings, at least a phase of it, collection of evidence and material, which leaves us to a second statutory segment of deliberations that will follow and will, as I mentioned, begin on December 15th. I see Mr. Delisle's joined us. So we will just include him at the moment in our call of the roll. Mr. Delisle here. All right. We have 5 members present. Our 5 voting members are Mr. Eigerman, Mr. Delisle, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Swanton, and myself. Now with the full board, we really don't need any affidavit by Mr. Delisle, so we're going to turn things over to Attorney Mead in the continuation of presentation of new material on behalf of the app.
Thank you.
Lisa, I'm sorry, when do you want to start me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Lisa Mead, Mead Teller Cost Security, Green Street, Newburyport, on behalf of the applicant, Port Plaza Realty Trust. Richard Kaplan, trustee, is here with me this evening. And also with me is Randy Myron, who's the engineer on the project, and Ed Bradford, who's the architect on the project. And online is Jeff Dirk, our traffic engineer. So what I wanted to do is just do a high level overview of what we've accomplished and what we're going to provide to you this evening. And then I have 2 tweaks I want to talk about with the waiver list that I provided to you that I picked up today when I was doing my last review of that. So I want to make sure the board has those. So we believe tonight we've provided to you our final plans on civil and our final plans on the architectural plans that you have of record, and we'll go through those changes. We believe that we have addressed all the stormwater management questions that have come up. And any outstanding issues related to the outfall is an existing condition, but otherwise, both the city's peer review engineer as well as the city engineer has said that we comply with all local and state stormwater requirements. We have had concerns raised about pedestrian access through the adjacent shopping center and 2-story avenue. We believe that we have addressed all of that, and we've shown those on a plans. And tonight, you will see that we have made the connection to Story Avenue from the shopping center as well. We want to say that, first of all, we appreciate the board and residents pushing us on that, and we appreciate the work that Randy has done to make that happen. So you'll see that tonight as well. We believe that we have addressed all of the the parking questions that have arisen. And those have now all been resolved and are all addressed within the plans. We received comments from the peer review design engineer. Ed has addressed all of those. We've incorporated almost all of those design changes, and he has basically signed off on those. And Ed will present his final changes to you tonight, in addition to some of the more examples that the board asked for at the last meeting. And then finally, the traffic and offsite improvements. We have gone through ad nauseum the various issues related to traffic on Low Street. And we have presented to you, as has our traffic engineer in a final letter, that what we need to solve for is the pedestrian access across Low Street. And we believe that we have done that with the proposal to create a crosswalk across Low Street in addition to a hawk signal. That could be resolved by either the RFR, I think it's called, or a hawk signal, which is a stop. But we're proposing to do the stop signal to provide extra safety across Low Street. If you have any questions about that, Jeff is online, and Randy will have that final slide in his presentation. The location, as Jeff will tell you, of that proposed crosswalk is based upon engineering standards, and that's why it's located where it is, so as not to interfere with the ingress and egress at the center driveway. And then I do want to say that I have provided an updated waiver list, but tonight or late today, I caught 2 tweaks that I want to talk to you about after the presentation tonight on the waiver list, so you have that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Randy.
Awesome. For the record, Randy Byron with Bowler. And I'll just gonna touch on some of the simple changes we made to address some of the comments from the last meeting. Well, just a few. As Lisa mentioned, we did provide a final set of civil plans that incorporate all the comments that we've received thus far. Certainly from the peer review consultants as well as from you folks from the board. And if we can just zoom in. So we did provide final plans of the plaza area and the drop-off area that we talked about the last meeting. It incorporates some of the comments we heard from your architectural peer review designer, some specialty pavings, some bollards, some benches, to make it not only a drop-off area, but to create some type of an outdoor kind of courtyard area. There's some flush granite pavers and some planters mixed in that area. So those are shown on the final plans. We also updated, this plan here shows the updated landscaping design. Again, just some changes to that were associated with these adjustments to this area. And I know there was also some comments from the tree warden that we did our landscape plan to address. I think he wanted some additional tree protection measures for the trees along Low Street, which we incorporated. There's a couple little changes to some of the species of the plants that he had requested, which we did. And then beyond that, we can go to the next slide. Yep, these are just some of the details we included of our plans of these. And these were, I think, these were depicted at the last meeting. Again, the bench, the planters. Yep, the look of what we're envisioning for the courtyard area to look like. The tree pits. And then we can go to the next slide. And I know there was a big discussion about providing the connection to Story Ave. We provided a connection. We're able to make it, it's an ADA compliant connection. We're proposing to make it just, a typical 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk. And it's this kind of green shaded area here that connects the sidewalk, the existing sidewalk within Story Ave to the, all of these sidewalks within the plaza. And that, of course, is on top of all the additional sidewalks and connections that we're providing as part of the project and within the Port Plaza Shopping Center. So, and really, that's really it for some of the changes that we talked about civil-wise at the last meeting. I think the next slide is this, Lisa, this is the
right. So this is the hawk signal that you had presented to you from Mr. Dirk several meetings ago. And you'll see it located to the east of the center driveway. And it includes the hawk signal, the crosswalk, and the sidewalk on the opposite side of Low Street to accommodate bus pickup and drop off. And Jeff can speak to that later as you might have questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ed to go over the civil, unless you want to stop and have questions on that, or do you want to?
You're gonna do civil and
then the architecture.
why don't we do we want to, let me ask my colleagues, do we want to deal with questions by subject matter? We can do them together. Okay. Very good. And we do have Kevin Dandrate online, so Kevin, if you're listening to us, we'll circle to you for some input, but we'll wait till we hear everything first, if that's okay.
Sounds good to me.
Good, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Ed Bradford, principal with TAT Architect. And Andy, do you happen to have our graphic presentation?
Yeah, sorry, actually, I'm going to think about this.
Yeah, this is the one I was thinking of. Yeah, so as Lisa noted, we prepared a series of exhibits in response to the comments from the November 12th hearing. And we appreciate the comments. Again, we really do think each time, each series of comments we're getting that the project is improving. Appreciate your comments, and we appreciate the comments of David Campbell and the peer review. So the exhibits we prepared, based on the comments we heard at the last hearing, are shown here. The first, the series of new renderings, perspective views. We presented the view from Story Ave at the last hearing with some comments we received since last hearing. We went back and took another look at that view, so we have an update there. We were asked to prepare a view from Low Street of the courtyard, from the Low Street perspective down at grade, looking towards the building at that, just below the pool court. We also prepared a view looking at the east side of the entry that was asked for us to look at the last hearing. And then finally, a little more detail on line of sight study to understand how we're going about screening the mechanical equipment from longer distances, really. And then not listed here, but as Lisa noted, we have a few samples of our work. So folks could go visit if they like. So this is the view that I just noted that we revisited. This is the same vantage point that we showed at the last hearing. So this is a view from Story Ave, looking towards the south with the Kmart shown at a distance. It was noted some discrepancies in our rendering at the last hearing. So we did a couple things. Rich reached out to his group and got us some drawings for the Kmart building. So we were able to confirm the heights of that building. And the next exhibit, we'll probably be able to go into that a little bit more detail. And then we went and took a new photograph, a higher quality photograph, and that's what this shows. So Andy's sort of going back and forth to kind of show the change. And then in this exhibit, I can dive into a little bit more detail. But this does show our building, of course, cropped into the existing condition from the Story Ave perspective. And then, yeah, Andy, the next exhibit kind of shows some of this detail. So what we're
I can zoom in a little bit.
Yeah.
More. Be creative.
Yeah, so with the drawings that Rich was able to track down of the existing building, we now know, based on the drawings, that the height of the Kmart building is 26 feet, and that is measured from the sidewalk at the grade of the parking. That's the height of the building to the parapet for the predominant length of the building. There is a little part that arcs up, sort of rounded pediment, if you will. That height is about 4 feet tall at 30 feet. So predominantly 26 feet tall to the parapet of the Kmart building. As we've talked about, the height of our building based on the zoning ordinance is 55 feet. That's measured to average grade. But for this comparison, of course, we're not talking about average grade. We're measuring from the grade of the sidewalk at the parking lot, which is elevation 71. So thinking about it that way, the height of our building is 49 feet, because again, we're not coming from the average lower grade, we're coming from the parking lot sidewalk. But we want to compare the top of our parapet of our proposed building to the top of the parapet to the Kmart building. So that's what we've done. The height of our parapet is 52 foot 6 inches. So that is 26 foot 6 inches taller than the existing Kmart building. So I think that question was asked of us last time. Relative heights of the existing structure and our proposed. So hopefully that sums things up for folks with this updated exhibit. And then another view we were asked to look at, we did show a series of views from Low Street, but we didn't focus on the view of one of the courtyards. We're proposing 2 courtyards down on the Low Street side. That, as I noted, that exposure is predominantly lined by apartment homes with doors on the street. But we do have these 2 courtyards from this vantage point. So this shows the existing condition. Just stay on that for one more second, Amy, thank you. This shows the existing condition, Low Street, of course, in the foreground. As we've noted, existing trees will be retained. Existing retaining wall, and then behind is the Kmart building. So with the next image, we've gone ahead and cropped in our design. So again, existing trees remain. The courtyard is at the center. But again, as I just noted, and we've noted a number of times during the hearings, really our approach to the Low Street facade is to line the parking garage that's behind with apartment homes, and to have the impression of a three-story building, again, with portions of the building that step back behind, with a three-story building on the front, and then to really think about, you know, what the pedestrian experience is along that sidewalk. So apartment homes that line the street with, you know, direct access and stoop access, front doors into folks' homes to have, you know, pedestrian friendly edge. But we're asked to focus again on this courtyard, and we have two of them along this frontage, and they do serve to break up the mass of the building. So while the apartment homes are a little bit closer to the street, the courtyard space, these are set back. That wall does show the parking garage wall, if not lined by these units, would be exposed. So at these courtyards, it is exposed, but clad in brick, and again, set back 42 feet, and is kind of a layered approach to the landscaping here. So again, existing trees and sidewalk closest to Low Street. There's a pretty broad lawn with plantings on the lawn. And then as Randy and colleague noted at the last hearing, the approach from the landscaping is to line that brick garage wall with arborvitaes to give a softer edge from the vantage point of Low Street. And then at the last thing, we're also asked to look at the portion of the building to the east of the primary entry court of the building. So we spent a lot of time at our last meeting talking about the main entry court, responding to the Gamble Associates architectural peer review. But it was asked of us, hey, what's happening to the left side or the east side, excuse me, of that entry court. So what this exhibit shows is our design in the application, the May 2025 design, and then our proposed adjustment to that design. So we went through, I think, pretty well at the last hearing, adjustments made to the entry court, where Gamble Associates suggested we think about on that important facade, introducing some more brick. With that input, well,
Okay. No,
so with that same input from the peer review, we did think about that area to the left, and we've heard this comment, I think, a couple times now, is in our original design to the left of that entry, there was a large area of cement board, a series of bays and cladding behind, some dimension and shadow, but again, predominantly a cement board cladding. So with the input we had from Gamble Associates, we thought about continuation of that brick texture to the left of that entry. So that's what the rendering shows, is now not only to the right side of the entry, but also to the left side of that entry, the continuation of the brick and bay texture, which adds a sort of level of slightly higher quality. We think that's appropriate for this front facade that really is not only made up of the front door, but also the whole entire elevation. So we're proposing that adjustment. And then last, few exhibits here, we were asked also to take a look a little bit closer at sight lines, to consider if mechanical equipment can be viewed really from any vantage point. So what we did with this exhibit is to study what would be the most extreme perspective. That would be, again, from the intersection or driveway at Story Ave. That is 630 feet from this perspective to the face of the building, proposed building. That would certainly be the most extreme perspective when you can get that long line of sight to a building. That would be where you might get a shot at mechanical equipment that's on the roof. But if you go to the next slide, Andy, we kind of zoom in here. So what you see here is that same line of sight, and even from that vantage point of 630 feet away, this parapet, as we noted last time, does a lot of work. And the equipment is quite low, as we noted, smaller condensing units on the roof. So these line of sights help us understand that the mechanical equipment will not be visible from any vantage point, even this most extreme one. I think we went through at the last meeting, thinking about the same kind of study from Low Street. Here, where we have the stepping of the building and that steeper line of sight, certainly there's not a possibility to see mechanical equipment when you're that close. And then finally, it was asked that we just provide a couple examples of our work, TAT work. These, of course, every project is unique, and ideas here are not applicable in Newburyport on this site. So it's just a few examples of our work. This one in the upper left-hand corner is probably the most different from what we're proposing here at Plaza Landings. This is a much more urban project. It's Clipper Ship Wharf in East Boston. It's taller, it's bigger. This one's about 500 units. The open space is very nice, and we think that's an area that we can aspire to for this project, the ground plane, the streetscape, but again, at a different scale. But it shows, we think, a good quality project. This project in Hingham, Avalon residents at Hingham Shipyard, a little bit closer in scale to what we're talking about. This one, I think the commonality between this project and what we're proposing at Plaza Landings is the bulk of the parking is in the podium of this building. So the first level, all of the parking is kind of, as we're proposing here at Plaza Landings, a more discrete location for the parking, so we don't have it on surface parking lots, but in the base of the building. Avalon Saucus, I think, is again a much larger project than we're proposing here. This project was getting there 300 units, but in some ways similar scale, 4-story buildings, different approach to the roof line, of course. And then finally, in the lower right-hand corner is Avalon North Andover, maybe the easiest one to take a look at proximity-wise if folks want to drop by and see a project. This project does have a similar scale, 4 stories. It's in the Mill District in North Andover. So again, it's, as I said, every project is unique. This architecture is new, but informed by the mills that are in the neighborhood. So a different approach, but it is a mix of brick and cement board. So some similarities there. If that wraps things up for me, happy to take any questions.
So all we have is here from the board. I have those comments on the waivers. If you want to have a conversation about anything in the traffic before we go over the waivers, I don't know how you'd like to proceed.
I think what we'd like to do is, I just want to have an opportunity to do public comment again. So we're gonna do that, and then we will, we'll go to questions from the board, and then I think what we'll do, is then turn it back over to you for that portion of the presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, apologies for my voice was a little bit low for a moment. For those online and for those in the room, we're going to reopen our public comment. If you notice the placard on the screen should be fairly familiar. We invite anyone who wishes to speak to kindly just rise, or if you're more comfortable, you may feel free to stay seated. Just give us your name and address so that Ms. Gretchen Joy, to off of my left shoulder, our note taker, can record that, and then you are welcome to share your thoughts. You needn't speak pro or con, though you're welcome to identify yourself that way. Simply let us know what topic you wish to speak about and share your comments. So with that, I'll go to hands in the room first, and then I'll go online. Anyone in the room wish to be heard in connection with anything that the board's taken in over these many weeks, actually months, in terms of subject matter topics, specifically anything that we've heard is fair game. Yes.
Hi everyone, Lisa Dina Smith, 175 Story. So first I wanted to thank the applicant and the consultants for addressing the feedback on the sidewalk and also showing the updated renderings with the overlay of Kmart. I found that very helpful. I did have a few questions relating to the left turn lane in response to the mayor's memo around a concern around it being cost prohibitive as a solution. I'm not aware of any discussions that we've had around costing around how much it would need to be widened, how much it might cost. And then I also asked in context of the fair share that has been rediscussed, is that cost comparable to what was originally being proposed around the fair share? If we could discuss like what the trade-offs there are around that. And then the other thing that I'll include in a follow-up comment is I did take a look at the Colby Farm Lane, and the bollards are even in worse shape, kind of further showing that there's a consistent driver behavior where people are hitting the bollards and they're passing on the right. I do feel very strongly that there needs to be safety improvements, especially with increasing pedestrians, even with the hawk signal. And I feel like a left lane enables cars to have that 2-lane so that they're not going into the shoulder and potentially hurting someone. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room who wishes to be heard? Yes.
I guess I'm here, Beth Trock, 144 Low Street. So I just want to share and reiterate, I think, although I may have mentioned it months ago, my experience as a pedestrian and a driver on Low Street. I absolutely agree that that left turn lane situation is going to be so important. See, I don't think I barely drive down Low Street and I don't see someone passing a car on a car that's waiting to turn left, whether it's into a driveway or the kinder care or Port Plaza or the plaza. Cars are constantly zipping around on the right hand side. It's incredibly dangerous for pedestrians at crosswalks. I live right across from the kinder care, so I see that a lot at that crosswalk. We really need to solve for this. This building is bringing in hundreds more pedestrians in the area, and they're going to be in danger if we don't solve that problem. So I'm really hoping that we keep working on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Anyone in the room who wishes to be heard further? I'm going to take a moment and look online, and then I'll circle back to the room once more in case there's any comments that come up. I see a hand raised. Mr. McCullough, you can just unmute your mic and
Thank you. Jim McCauley, 27 Storybrook Drive. Thank you. I'm not present because, as you can tell, I'm contagious, and I appreciate not infecting anyone. I first of all want to say I'm encouraged by the changes and improvements made in the plan. I think we're on a pathway to getting to compromise on this. A couple of points I'd just like to point out is that we did see on the Story Ave side, we did see a superimposing of the existing building, but on the view from Low Street, let's say from Giuseppe's looking eastward towards it, we did, and we saw a side profile. We didn't. I didn't see it or we missed it. Seeing a profile of the existing building and how it would map out to the proposed building that they have there. That's first. And secondly, as we talk about and we get into the traffic portion of this, we've spent a great amount of time and effort talking about the central driveway. But one of the things that isn't truly discussed is the east driveway and the traffic patterns coming out of the underground garage are going to send 20 to 30% of those people there to take left-hand turns. And if you approach Low Street from the east, from 100 feet away, it's a blind driveway, and it's not property that the approaching property isn't in the control of the applicant. And so I do think that the traffic patterns need to be, excuse me, the traffic mitigation probably needs to be adjusted to address better sight lines and views out of the east driveway, as well as, in addition to what is being proposed for the central driveway. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any further hands online? Anyone who's attending online, please raise your hand and we'll hear from you. Seeing no further hands online, I'll do one more pass in the room. Anyone in the room wish to be heard before we close public comment?
I forgot to say.
No, quite all right. Now's the time.
So I just had one question on the legal opinion on the outfall pipe, if we could address that, since that wasn't in the presentation. There was a memo and it's 60 pages, and so if we could synthesize, what's the opinion and where are we, moving forward with that? Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna, since that's let me just pause for a second. Are there any other questions before we close public comment? Okay, I'm going to close public comment and that's the close of public comment for the 40B application. And with that, I'm gonna ask our attorney Gareth Orsman to address the legal opinion and at least try to, and keep in mind, we only, it's 60 pages, right? So we only ourselves are seeing it as we publish it contemporaneously to the public. What is it? Permits? Open permits. Thank you. Open government. Thank you. So I want to have Attorney Orsman just kindly give us sort of a synthesis of what that says and what the opinion is counseling us on.
Right, so I submitted a memo, just stormwater management standards, and then a letter that gave the board some guidance on the standards under chapter 40B, well, it's 60 pages, like the majority of that, a couple of Housing Appeals Court, Appeals Committee decisions, just so that the board gets a flavor for what that is like. And they focus mostly on the conditions. And because I'm a lawyer, I'm not taking the facts that have been presented to the board and applying them to the law. I'm just giving the board members the law for them to apply the facts. And that's what the memo does. So in terms of the outfall pipe, the first couple of pages of my guidance give the standards in 40B, which are generally that the board can require mitigation of offsite conditions if it's not treating the subsidized housing unequally from unsubsidized housing, if it's not addressing a purely existing condition, and if the proposed mitigation is not out of proportion with the problems being caused by the project. So the board is going to have to take what is in terms of the outfall, like the letters and memos by the various stormwater consultants, our consultant, the city engineer, and the applicant consultant, and apply those statements to those standards to figure out what, if anything, it will do in that outfall.
And just to dovetail on that, for just further, I guess, transparency, the board will have to toil in the coming weeks during the deliberations process with all of the material that we've taken in. But specifically, there is an exercise which is incumbent upon each of us / all of us collectively, which is a balancing of the equities with respect to the criteria. That's the legal criteria that defines the outward boundaries, the margins of what is within the purview of the board. It doesn't dictate that is the decisions or deliberations of the board, but merely that it's giving us guidance so that we know what is fair fodder to consider, to discuss. And of course, we have lots to delve through, and it will be a fairly granular process yet to come. But that's part of the public process, and will be, of course, part of what we do in this next phase. But it's a good question. I'm glad that it was raised so that we can at least address it in the public forum. And it's really more of an answer of yet to be determined, but at least it's part of the paradigm of what we'll be doing next. So we expect everyone to sort of stay tuned because we'll be jumping into that right away. So having closed the public comment, and I thank Attorney Whitman for getting into the that answer for us on the opinion that was just posted. We will close. I think I've already closed public comment, so we're going to at this point open it up to questions from the board. And again, I just remind my colleagues that we do have our peer consultants online as well. So
Yeah, I think Attorney Mead was going to speak to the waivers, if you will.
We need to talk to the waivers first.
you know what? Actually, why don't we do that so that any questions from the board can be included with that? My apologies, Attorney.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
So there were two tweaks that I had after I reviewed it again tonight, with comparing it specifically line by line to the request we had. And our waiver number 6, so we provided these all to the board a week ago. Well, you've had them from the beginning, but then the final list. So waiver number 6 says the City of Newburyport Code of Ordinances, Article 7, earth removal. It's actually Chapter 5, Article 7, earth removal. So I just wanted to make sure you had the right reference. The more substantive one goes to the site plan review that's in our waiver request number 8. So as I compared it to the existing plaza and what's going to be left at the existing plaza, as you know, in our dimensional relief, we request a relief for the lot B, which is the existing plaza property for setbacks, right? Because the building's going to be right there. The plaza has been permitted throughout its life through administrative site plan review. So there's nothing to change there. But under the existing requirements for site plan review, it says if you create 10 or more new parking spaces, you're subject to site plan review. And so because we've changed the parking configuration in front of Kmart, so if you could go to the site plan for a minute. So before there were no parking spaces in front of Kmart and there was that big wide area. So we're now adding parking spaces in front of Kmart that are going to be on lot B, which is the remainder lot. And we'll have an easement to them. And so just for avoidance of any confusion, I wanted to make sure we had a waiver for lot B related to site plan review insofar as it is applicable to that area. So that I wanted to make sure that was added to paragraph 8, that this request for waivers regarding site plan review also apply to the parking spaces that we've changed on lot B.
And lot B is
The remainder lot. The remainder lot, yes.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
With that, we will open up questions from the board.
I Randy, could you just do a blow up of the plan view of the connection to Low Street? I just want to understand how it works in 3 dimensions, how you get up the grade.
Yeah. Andy, I don't know if we can zoom into.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. If you want.
Oh, it's towards the
Grady,
end.
maybe.
I'm gonna go towards the end. Maybe. There we go. Yeah, if you can zoom into this area.
Oh, you want to show the top? Is it, sorry, count, yeah, Jerry, are you looking for only the top portion? Yeah, just there,
So, yeah, so currently, this is the North Shops area of Port Plaza. This is the ATM, I forget the name of the bank. Credit Union, I believe, ATM here. There's a retaining wall here.
Yeah.
Right, and then of course this is your main driveway, and there's a landscape strip where there's a split rail fence and some landscaping in there. That would essentially get removed, and there'd be a new concrete walkway kind of built in that area that ties into that existing sidewalk along.
You don't need a waiver, but there was a lot of talk in previous hearings about waivers from the maximum grade.
No, we were able to make it ADA compliant. So yeah, it's really good. I mean, it'll be less than 5%. Well, we don't need any handrails or anything like that. So,
With a fence.
right, there's a fence for some fall protection measures, because there's some of us steep grade, but other than that, it's intended to be ADA compliant.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then I have some questions, for Ed. Just tell me again, when you did the condensing units, thanks for sharing the line of sight. What did you assume again for the height of the condenser units? I know you're the big groups.
Yeah.
In the middle.
Yeah, we call like condenser units suitcase units. They're sort of essentially that size. So they're 30 inches tall. I think we assumed 3 feet for this study, but they're between 30 inches and 3 feet tall, and they go on a 2-foot stand, and that's for snow.
All right, so in other words, 5 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's one. And then, thank you for the examples of other projects. That is helpful for the board to understand how the building's been tailored for this neighborhood versus those other neighborhoods. Signs. So, I think, you know, the signs are shown on your drawings, and when we deliberate, you know, we'll talk about sign ordinance. But could you just highlight for me? I mean, I didn't find one sheet that showed all the signs. Like, how many signs are there? Where are they? I don't want to miss that.
Yeah, Randy, maybe you can help me out if I miss one, but as far as the signs on the building.
Yeah.
Where there are a couple, we're talking about a sign over the main canopy right at the front door.
Okay.
So a sign located there, and then we're looking at a building sign or a blade sign that does show in our set that we submitted.
Yeah.
Right at that corner.
Well, there's one at the entrance, the central driveway, right?
And then at grade, there's I would call like a monumental sign or at grade sign right at the entry driveway, which can be shown here.
Okay, so 2 round signs and 1 canopy or marquee sign. Right?
Yeah, and the building blade sign, you can see it right here, actually.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it in the presentation. That's it, so 3 total. I mean, you can always come back and ask for more. I just want to know what we're.
That's 4.
4.
2 building and 2.
Sorry, there's 2 on the building. One's on the blade in the corner and one's in front where the U driveway is.
Yeah.
Then there's 2 now. on the side.
Okay, I'll keep searching on the drawings. I believe it's just, I just wanted to find a moment. You're showing. All right, and then, the last question, really is, I don't know who to answer it, but, came up for a project I have in Boston, which is dogs. The city councilor wanted to know where people were gonna take their dogs. Well, I guess the first question is, will dogs be allowed in this project? And what's your experience, I mean, from other, it's like this? I mean, because again, it's a shopping center now, so there really isn't anything.
Yeah, I mean, it is a mixed bag. We would often dogs are permitted in these communities, yes.
Yeah, but there's no, okay. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on-
So, this is no different than if you live where I live
Yeah,
and you have a dog, you walk your dog on the concrete and you pick it up. Right? And if you want to go to someplace that there's grass, you walk further.
yeah.
Right?
No,
So it's no different in this location, right?
I got you.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a dog too, but, the question I hadn't heard before and I stuck in my mind. Okay, that's all I had. And then I have a question for our consultant, transportation.
Kevin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Great. Yeah, Kevin, you've already, I'm pretty sure in my notes, we already addressed the east driveway and I know you covered it in one of your many memos, but Councilor McCauley was asking about it tonight. Can you tell us your opinion on the adequacy of the design for that driveway? Given now that there'll be no exit from the central.
Yes, and
I actually encouraged a greater level of use from that easterly driveway because it will better distribute traffic that's leaving the entire property. And there's significant reserve capacity at that easterly driveway. As it relates to stop lines, you can see within the image that's up on the screen that there's a generous swath of what is city right of way. And Mr. Dirk and his team had already confirmed, based on an earlier comment and question I had about the sight lines, to confirm that it does meet all applicable standards for sight distance and intersection sight lines based on the speed characteristics of Low Street. So I have no reservations at this time for that easterly driveway.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Very good. Further questions from the board?
My first question is to Ed on the design side. And I must say, Ed, I'm pleased that you have taken so many of Gamble's inputs on the design. Appreciate it.
And we appreciate it too.
My question basically is, forgive me, but I'm on the zoning board of appeals, and usually we see much smaller buildings. And when the plans are submitted, they have to be built as shown on the plans that we approved. And maybe you could just educate me, but is your intention to build just like that?
It certainly is, yeah.
Yeah, you'll have a condition. So even though these are technically preliminary plans, you have line drawings as well, because that's all that's required to be submitted. You'll have a condition in your decision that says prior to the issuance of a building permit, the final construction drawings will be reviewed by a peer review person again to confirm it meets these proposed plans.
Including the brick goes with it.
That's correct. That all has to be built. Those will become a part of the decision, just like they are in any of your other decisions.
Okay, great. My next question is for Randy. And I was gonna ask you about that sidewalk connection that you've already gone over that. Looks great. The question I had was one of the things we got input from was to make sure that those very large trees along Low Street are protected. And I noticed on drawing, I think it's C801, you have a little blow up there with a tree protection plan.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, Andy, if you could just put up the I think it's C801. At least it was in your drawings from 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's in the final submission, not in the presentation, Andy.
Street here? Yeah. And what is it, sorry, you want the wall of the street set?
It's a detailed sheet.
Yeah,
It's a detail.
C801 is the.
Yeah, that's it. Just blow up,
Right.
blow up the one he points at.
Which one is it, sir?
It's right in the middle.
I think it's,
It's that. Yeah. Okay.
Here, Andy.
maybe it's this.
Oh, okay, it's over one.
Now, when you said C801, I thought you were referring to.
That's.
So could you just speak to it for a moment? I mean, I've never seen a plan like this, so I mean, you literally put a fence all the way around the trees, so no equipment can get anywhere near it? Is that what that's telling me?
Yes, that's, you put a fence around like the drip edge of the tree line. And one of the comments from the tree warden was also about to protect the roots of those trees, adding some measures. So we added some notes to our plans, just that the contractor needs to coordinate with us, as well as I think with the tree warden, just regarding, how he's gonna do that in the field.
So the drip edge of the tree, is that like the extent of the branches all the way around?
Correct.
Okay, all right, so that's a pretty wide area. So you can build this gigantic building even with all those trees in front, with a big ring around them?
Yeah, well, what helps is that, there's an existing retaining wall. Andy, if you go to the, maybe just the demolition plan, there's an existing retaining wall along the Kmart side, on Low Street, right? So the new building is actually set in back of that retaining wall.
I see.
So
You don't
we
need to
think
get
that,
down there.
So we think that's gonna help a lot in order to maintain those existing trees, as well as protect those groups that are there associated with those trees.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. My next question, is for, Attorney Mead. I guess I learned in one of these hearings that the lit area around the building that is part of the housing project is quite small, and there's a big easement around it where things are, where there's rights given to go with this project. I guess my question is, I mean, maybe it's somewhere in the hundreds of pages that have been submitted, but are all those easements in front of us?
Not yet, they aren't. So the reciprocal easements are written up, the areas of the easements are on the plans.
Mhm.
But again, we're not gonna draft all those easements until we know there's approval, and they're not required to be submitted, but you'll have a condition that says prior to the issuance of a building permit, the easements have to be recorded, right? And reviewed and approved by council.
Because obviously, a lot of the things that this building depends on are in those easements.
That's right.
And given that we have one owner here who owns both sides, hopefully it won't change between now and.
Well, but we have to give those reciprocal easements prior to any building permit being issued, so that we make sure that the legal confines are in place.
Okay. All right. My next question is about these waivers. We got a letter from a member of the public a few days ago saying, basically asking a general question of why do we have all these waivers? For example, like the waiver from lighting requirements. Did we ever review lighting requirements? Was that part of what Campbell looked at with the design review?
Yes. So we submitted a lighting plan and lighting requirements. The issue is that as the site plan review requirements have some very detailed performance standards that require different submissions and other review criteria.
Right.
And so we just don't want to be caught up in missing one of those little things. And so that's why you have reviewed everything that the planning board would have reviewed.
Right. And the letter also mentions storm runoff. I know we've dealt with that, and planting plans. I know we've dealt with that. But the fourth thing this letter writer mentioned was erosion control for the next 6 months.
Yep.
To ensure that during construction, this isn't, and you're asking for a waiver for that.
No, we're asking for a waiver from erosion control as it is applied in the site plan review. That the city's peer review engineer and the city engineer has already reviewed the civil plans, which include erosion control on the civil plans. And we're gonna have to meet NIPD's, is that right?
Correct.
The NIPD's requirement, which is a national pollution.
So you're not asking for a waiver from those.
No, we're just, it's, a lot of these are more to make sure that we don't miss something in the
Well, I
detail,
thought
we have to go get approval.
That was a good question from the public. I just wanted to get that on there. My next question is about traffic. And I understand very clearly, what the applicant is proposing here for the Hawk. I appreciate that it's a Hawk. But we have been over this ground in several previous meetings, and our own, peer review felt it wasn't just a matter of convenience, it was safer to have a left turn lane, and we don't really see a picture of a Hawk, but I don't know what a left turn lane would look like, so I would, or just at least a description of what one would be. So I would like to ask Kevin, our peer review. Kevin, can you hear me? Is that something
Yes.
you could talk to? You have argued that it's safer to have a left turn lane, and if you could just describe what you mean by what a left turn lane would look like.
Sure. Essentially, Andy, if you can zoom in on the dimensions on the left side of the driveway there. Oh, it's a little blurry, but essentially that existing roadway cross section from curb to curb, it would require a minor widening on one or both sides, depending on how it fits with utilities and trees and such, but essentially to split the main east and west lanes on Low Street and fit a 10-foot wide left turn pocket that would be used for access for the left turns into the center driveway. My suggestion consistently throughout the process has been a 10-foot left turn lane, 11-foot through lanes, and 5-foot shoulders. You can see that the existing through lanes are 13 feet wide. The shoulder is a little bit wider than 5 feet, so it's not a full lane widening. But there would certainly be other final engineering that would have to be done. But, my most recent letter from October 27th details my suggestions for mitigation, and that is actually number one on the list. Not that it's a list of prioritization of the offsite needs, but it just happens to be item one, which is the construction of a new 10-foot wide left turn lane on Low Street eastbound at the Port Plaza Center driveway with minor roadway widening. So, that's consistently been my recommendation. It is warranted. It would be exacerbated by the additional traffic that would be generated by the facility, which is also stated in that letter from October 27th. So, my opinion stays the same.
It's just been pointed out to me by one of my colleagues that, there's a drawing, I believe it was done by, Vanessa, of what a widening would look like. And I think it's the one you just referred to. This particular picture, does a widening also mean a refuge island, or is that or would you not have one?
It would not be possible in what's shown on the screen, but Mr. Dirk and his team did prepare an exhibit that was entitled Hawk Signal and Left Turn Lane with Roadway Widening, dated October 22nd, which was the main reason for my letter on the 27th. I offered some suggested tweaks to that, but I do recommend a refuge island on the right side of the intersection. There you go. Some resemblance of that, but I think slid to the right a little bit more, because that space, it will already be there if the roadway is widened for the left turn pocket. I do believe that it would be a further enhancement for pedestrian safety because of the idea that you could make a two-stage pedestrian crossing if desired. Having the island in the middle of the road also creates somewhat of a traffic calming effect on the east side of that intersection. But it's a great way to use the space to be able to further enhance the pedestrian crossing.
A related question, which is, one of the members of the public here, Lisa Medina Smith, pointed out that on the Colby Farm, that I think you're familiar with, there's bollards there that keep getting hit, because the road's not wide enough. If you had this left turn lane, would that, make it less likely that people would hit things? You know what I mean? I mean, I'm trying to imagine if we don't do a left turn lane and another member of the public here tonight said she lives right here and people are just going to stream around those cars waiting to go in. And the road's not wide enough to stream around them. I'm wondering what you're going to hit. So I guess my general question is given people's tendency to stream around people waiting to go somewhere to take a left, would widening the road, make it less likely those cars would hit things, like they hit the bollards down at Colby Farm Lane?
I would say that, and I just want to clarify too, that the exhibit that's up in front of you shows the ability to introduce a left turn lane without widening. There was I believe another exhibit that showed 5-foot shoulders, which was also part of my recommendation. If it was designed with a left turn pocket at 10 feet wide, which is more or less a standard left turn lane width, 11 feet are standard through lane widths. If it was accompanied by a 5-foot shoulder, you would not need for people to bypass and use the shoulder area for, traversing around cars. I do believe that this is a significant improvement to include both the left turn lane and 5-foot shoulders for both bicycles and pedestrians. But I believe if that width was there, it would be very unlikely that it would be constrained to a level where you'd see encroachment in sidewalk areas, et cetera.
So you were, just to be clear here, you're proposing the road at a 5-foot shoulder, a 10-foot turning lane, and then two 10-foot travel lanes and a 5-foot on the other shoulder for a total of 40 feet. Is that correct?
It would be 5-foot shoulder, 11-foot through lane, 10-foot left turn lane, another 11-foot through lane, and then another 5-foot shoulder.
Okay. So total of 42 feet.
Yes.
And how wide is the road today?
I don't recall the existing width, but I believe it's depicted in the exhibit right now. So 22, 32, 36-ish feet.
36. So we're talking about 6 feet of pavement in order to get to your ideal dimension.
Correct.
One of the other questions from the public is, how much does that cost? And that's probably unfair to put you on the spot for that one, but.
We have estimates.
Oh, we have.
Yeah.
We
can hold- yeah.
We had it earlier,
Presentation on this, right?
right, when you had your 3 columns, so we can look at that.
Correct.
We have that data. Good. I think that's basically the questions I had on the left turn lane. And I don't think I have any more questions at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Swan, I'm just gonna allow Attorney Mead to address some of the questions that were raised before we continue with questions from the board.
I think I'd like to have Mr. Dirk chime in here because I think that there's a couple things that need to be brought up again. First of all, the left turn lane would be warranted under existing conditions, right? And the new traffic from the plaza doesn't change that existing condition. Further, the test isn't whether something is made safer. The question is the condition unsafe? And are we addressing the issue that is caused by the development, which is the increase in pedestrian traffic? And so the left turn lane is a vehicular issue. And without the left turn lane, the low street traffic condition would not be unsafe. And so before I get to myself in trouble because I'm not the expert, I would like Mr. Dirk to address those issues.
If I could, Mr. Chair, I think we could save time because we did hear all this. If I could just give the numbers and then both Kevin and Dirk could confirm that I have it right, and then we're
Very
done.
good.
So on that matrix, the vehicular impact would be increase to left turn traffic at Low Street Center driveway from project. I believe it's during the peak hour. It says 8-22 vehicles, 33% increase. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that, and I believe what we had heard from our expert is that that's what he was focused on for the turn. I remember asking about that. If I have that right, Kevin.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure it's clear that Attorney Mead has done a good job representing our client to talk about how certain things are warranted today, which is absolutely true, but they're also exacerbated by additional traffic from the proposed residential development, which is a big difference. That left turn pocket would have newly added traffic to it, which I think is a differentiator when talking about the merits and the need and the justification for that left turn pocket.
I just, one follow-on thing. One of my concerns isn't just the added pedestrian, it's the added bicycle. And if we have 400 people living there and a bunch of them have bicycles, and they're going down this side lane and their bicycles aren't bollards. When people are going around, people waiting, and they hit a bike, that's one of my concerns.
I need Mr. Dirk to answer, okay, I'm not the expert.
Bicycles.
Jeff, are you on?
Yes, I am. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, again, Jeffrey Dirk with Vanessa and Associates. So I guess we've gone through this at several hearings, and I think I'm just gonna reiterate a couple of points. We have been very clear. And I don't think there's any disputing the fact that the left turn lane at the center driveway is warranted under existing conditions independent of the project. It is not justified or warranted as a direct result of the addition of the traffic from this project. The warranting of the left turn lane at the driveway is in no way justified as a result of a pre-existing safety deficiency at the driveway. The driveway at the Center Low Street Plaza does not exceed any crash rate. Any crashes that are occurring at that intersection related to left turn movements would only account for about 2 crashes over a 5-year period. Any crashes occurring at that intersection relating to left turns over a 5-year period amounted to 2 crashes. The crashes that are occurring are not related to left turn movements entering or exiting the plaza. So not warranted as a result of the project's traffic, and there is not a pre-existing safety deficiency that occurs at the intersection. Any conjecture that the addition of traffic from this project would cause additional crashes at that intersection is not founded or based on the facts of what is happening at the intersection. The task and issue that was asked to be resolved as it relates to the residential building was how to safely have pedestrians cross Low Street to access the bus service that currently exists on the roadway. We have done that. It has been peer reviewed. We've agreed to install the Hawk beacon at this intersection. The Hawk beacon does not require a roadway widening. It can maintain pedestrian accommodations, and they would be enhanced with the addition of the sidewalks, and bicycle accommodations are maintained. And so that's the position that we stand by as it relates to the addition of a residential building at this location. I've been very clear in my testimony that I am in no way suggesting that a left turn lane is not warranted, but I am clear in saying it is not warranted as a result of this project.
You didn't speak to bicycle.
Bicycle activity along Low Street increased as a result of this project, absent doing any interventions in the roadway without widening is still maintained. So if you install a Hawk beacon as shown on this plan, there's no degradation in bicycle accommodations along this roadway.
No, but my question is, just like we're adding a lot of pedestrians to a place never designed for them, so you've dealt with a Hawk light. You're also adding a lot of people who will have bicycles, who are gonna go along a road where people are cutting around people trying to do lefts. And so you are creating a situation with a lot more bikes who could be hit. They're not bollards. Could you please talk to the bikes?
The bicyclists are visible to pedestrians or to vehicles that are driving along the roadway. If a vehicle is waiting to make a left-hand turn and there's a bicycle in the shoulder continuing along Low Street to the east, the pedestrian that may illegally decide that they're going to cross into the shoulder to illegally bypass a vehicle that's going into the site would see that bicyclist. So there's not a conflict created by the fact that there not being a left turn accommodation at this location.
So you don't, I mean, I guess one of the residents here said that she sees people all the time streaming around, people trying to take a left there. Don't you think though, and if there's a lot more bikes, I'm just trying to follow, if there's a lot more bikes all of a sudden because of this big housing development, aren't those people at risk if people are streaming around them? And isn't the situation different because all of a sudden the bikes are there?
If you're a
That's-
motorist driving eastbound on Low Street and you've turned from Story Avenue and there's a bicyclist, you will have driven by that bicyclist in the turn lane. That bicyclist, let's presume that you've passed them, you're heading towards the Port Plaza intersection. You've already seen the bicyclist on your right. The bicyclist is now behind you. You pull up to the left turn vehicle, the bicyclist is still driving in the shoulder. So if you decide to go illegally, into the shoulder to bypass the left turn vehicle going into the Port Plaza, number one, the bicyclist is going to see you pull into the shoulder area there and hopefully be able to react, but you'd also have the visibility of that bicyclist. Again, we're presuming this is a presumed situation that under current conditions does not occur under current conditions, and there is no history of a motor vehicle crash involving a bicyclist and a motorist turning left going into the plaza.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Can I just interject for a moment? Mr. Dirk, this is Rob Champetti. A quick dovetail on the questions that Mr. Swanton had raised. I'm hearing sort of the emphasis, and correct me if I'm wrong, the emphasis in your testimony or in your summary of your testimony is that that the left turn lane or the condition in Low Street is a pre-existing condition, a pre-existing deficiency, I believe is how you described it. Is that true? Or is that fair to say?
So, Mr. Chairman, I hopefully, and I don't believe I said a deficiency. There's not a deficiency. I think of what I've said is the left turn lane is warranted under existing conditions.
Okay.
Yes, there's no
Fair.
deficiencies here.
So forgive me then if I mischaracterized that, but you had indicated that there is a pre-existing condition did you describe that existing condition as problematic, as insufficient? I don't want to mischaracterize what you had said, but I want to make sure I understand, because I have a follow-on question and I'm hoping to get sort of a clear response, which I'm sure I will, but I want to make sure I clarify this predicate first before I ask the question I really want to ask you.
There is no deficiencies as they relate to this intersection at all. And if there, I don't believe I've ever said that there was a deficiency. What I've said is there's a desirability there's a desirability to install a left turn lane here. And there's a very clear distinction as to desirability and a need based on a deficiency. There is not a deficiency that requires the need to install a left turn lane here. There's a desirability, and that desirability is based on meeting the warrants under existing conditions.
Is it a fair characterization of your opinion then that the construction of this project and the intermodal transportation impact, both by car, by pedal, by pedestrian, is exacerbated by the project, is intensified by this project? Is it fair to say that your opinion is that the project intensifies any existing condition on Low Street with respect to this notion of a hawk or left turn lane pocket that we're discussing? I hope that's clear, and my apologies if you'd like me to.
Yeah, it's actually clear, and I appreciate the terminology that you've used, Mr. Chairman. So there's a intensification or an increase in the multimodal use of Low Street. I think that is a good characterization as it relates to the project at this location.
Okay, so that we're clear, your opinion is consistent with what I believe our peer expert's opinion was, which is that the project, once constructed, will intensify the I think you said multimodal, I may have said intermodal. I think the multimodal movement of cars, feet, and pedals in and around that area of Low Street. It sounds like that's your opinion. Is that right?
It is, and I appreciate that characterization, Mr. Chairman. The terminology you've used is correct. I would agree with that.
Okay, thank you. Uh, Further questions from the board?
I have just one for attorney. I just want to, just help me out to sort out the height issue, attorney. Currently, I know this is kind of a curious zoning that takes place in this plaza, so currently there's a special zoning. I'll call them rules and regulations that govern other things, the height of structures in the plaza.
Correct.
And what's the limitation on that?
Do you have it? I don't have it off the top of my head. I don't know if it's on the plan.
40 feet.
40 feet.
Okay, so I guess my question is, you're asking for a waiver of that height limitation up to 50 to
55 feet. I think it's 65.
All right, I just want to understand the waiver.
Sure.
I had a question. I mean, also, and maybe it might bring in Mr. Dirk as well. I think I read in maybe the cover letter for tonight's presentation, kind of something about the fact that maybe the MIVA stop should be relocated into the Port Plaza.
Yeah.
Could you kind of explain that a little?
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, because I didn't touch on it. So MIVA used to come in to the plaza and stop right in front of Kmart, actually. And so they don't do that anymore. But we want to reach out to them and see if they will start to do that again if this project is complete. It makes all kinds of sense in the world, and there's plenty of room for it. So we'd like to coordinate that with them. And we think that would be a great idea. And I think the planning office has already reached out to MIVA as well. So that's the point of that comment, is that we would hope that MIVA would actually come into the plaza.
And that's because Chair Champetti just referenced that you do have this increase in the intermodal travel that would be generated by the additional residents.
Well, it would be more convenient instead of walking down and crossing Low Street. It would be more convenient for them just to get the bus in front of the building in the plaza. So I'm talking about pedestrians only, right? So yeah. So that it's a convenience issue, and trying to encourage people to take the bus rather than to hop in a car or something like that, right? So that in any kind of multifamily development anywhere in the Commonwealth, you try to encourage leaving cars alone, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
The idea to bring MIVA in is to try to encourage people to use the bus more often, and because it's more convenient than walking down in front of.
And it's safer than crossing the street. Having it there.
Well, if you have a hawk there, I think the hawk is pretty safe.
Okay. The other question I had was maybe for Ed. With regard to the 4 examples that you ran us through of the other Avalon projects, were those sort of the same distribution of market rate housing and affordable housing, or are those different in that regard?
I would really need to check, but I'm pretty certain that the Hingham project had a similar distribution as we're talking about here, the 40B project. The others are not.
The others are just market projects?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then when you were talking about sort of the changes that you guys did in the design with respect to the left-hand side of the building, which looks pretty neat, by the way. So that goes kind of to the point where the other sort of marketplace shops would obscure sort of that street level view of, or that street level interaction of the front of the building.
That's really the intent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Yes.
I just wanted to follow up. Sorry, I just wanted to follow up. Thank you. Wait, hi, if a waiver were not granted, you would lose I guess the top floor, is that correct?
Ed, you'd have to tell me, maybe
Yeah.
two.
What would you lose?
So down to 40, it's 15 feet, so that's probably 2 floors at the very least.
Is that right? Yeah, 40 feet would be very tight to squeeze in 4 stories, yeah. Okay. That would reduce the number of units at half from 2.
Yeah, I don't know what the number of the unit reduction would be significant.
Can you tell me how many units currently does the city of Newport need to achieve its 10% obligation under state law?
Andy can give you that. We had that.
Yeah, I told you, I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but this project would put us over that, substantially.
We're at like 9.
We're at 9.45, I believe.
9.45%.
So we need
It's only around 60 units or so, but
10%.
So with a representative differential though, because portable, it's the population, project or the 40B, all the units in this building would be counted towards the subsidy. So with that substantial number, it pushes us over the 10%.
Say that again,
The way that the state works is that even though like 25% of the units are affordable,
Right.
because the state has prioritized rental units, the
Yeah.
other 75% of units will count towards the subsidized housing inventory. So with that substantial number of 212 units, that pushes us over the 10%.
Significantly.
Significant.
Correct.
Right, well, I take 100 as well.
Just so you know, they do reset those every.
Yeah.
I understand. I guess the numbers what they are.
So I don't have the exact number of units. I don't have the exact number of units.
It's like 42, I think, a year. 42.
Mr. Benning, I think the numerator changes every year as well.
I understand, I understand. I'm just,
I like that.
I just be curious, how big is the red box here? I mean, is it 15% with, 200, will be at 15%, 20%?
No, I think we're
Understand.
I think we're talking
where we are.
11 to 12 maximum percentage.
With an addition, counting this as 212 units, we would be at 12%.
So I think it's like 11.
I can do the trade.
It's not like a 15%.
I just want the number, but you gotta get it, so.
Based on the most recent published subsidized housing inventory from the state, which again is a couple years old. As of June 2023. If we were to add 212 units and the denominator didn't change, it just kept, you know, it will.
Yeah.
We would be in this project of 212, we'd be at 12% even.
12%. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
That's a whole, thanks.
Further questions from the board?
Yes.
Yeah, I just have a comment, which is, you know, I know I've been pushing tonight on one thing, but I just want to thank the applicant for listening over these many hearings, and you guys have made a lot of positive changes as a result of the input from everybody. And it's, I think it's, well, I'll just speak for myself, it's really appreciated. Want to say.
Further question, thank you. Further questions from the board? Anything further before we endeavor to close questions from the board? Okay. I'm going to close questions from the board and just to recant for the record, we have closed presentation and all materials, but Attorney Mead, before I go through that sort of recap, is there anything you wanted to add before?
I just want to make sure that for the record, my additional comments on the waiver will become a part of the record so that I don't have
Oh,
to
absolutely.
resubmit. So those are done. Okay.
Yes.
We have the updated list.
So
Yeah.
we're fine. We've submitted all final documents,
Okay.
last week.
Are you content if we close presentation on the 40B project?
And which means you're closing the public hearing?
We're closing the we're closing the public hearing. We'll be closing public comment, presentation, public comment and questions from the board, leaving, us to open, deliberations on our next meeting on December 15th.
Yeah.
Okay, with that then, for the record, we are closing the public hearing. Do we have a motion and a second, and, then we'll go through the formality of that.
And will we close the public hearing on this Story Road? Get the exact number, 45?
Story.
45. Story. 45.
Story Avenue application.
I'm sorry, could I offer, if
Yeah, go ahead.
but not being a member.
Friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment, perhaps just also to continue the matter to your meeting next week.
Yeah. We'll
further discuss the application.
Absolutely, that's gonna be part of that's part of the motion. I was gonna try to make that clear. So we're closing the public hearing. I think the motion is closing the public hearing with the reservation of a continuation for purposes of commencing and opening deliberation.
Yes, so moved.
50. Okay, so, we have a motion, to close the public hearing with the reservation of the continuation of of the 40B application process, till the meeting of December 15th for purposes of commencement.
But to be clear, there's no more testimony.
There's no more testimony. We're closing public
No more
comment
argument,
and
no more
questions.
testimony.
What's that?
No more argument, no more testimony.
Correct. No more presentation, no more testimony.
Okay,
No more.
I second the motion.
Very good. Motion made by Mr. Swanton and seconded by Ms. The roll. Mr. Swanton.
Yes.
Mr. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Delisle.
Yes.
Mr. Eigenman.
Yes.
And I vote yes. That's 5 in the affirmative. The ayes have it. Motion carries. The public hearing on the 40B application of 45 Story Avenue, Port Plaza Realty Trust is closed. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you who continue to participate in this public process, which continues. This matter is now going to be continued for the hearing of December 15th, which is a special hearing that we set because we, based on the availability issues leading up to the holiday. So we will reconvene here at 7 PM on the 15th. And during that hearing, we will immediately open with the commencement of deliberations by the board with respect to all the materials that have been submitted and are in consideration. So anything that the board has will be posted on OpenGov. And that includes any legal memoranda that we've received, including the documents today, and anything further that's been submitted. We encourage you to continue the participation and involvement. It's a critical part of this public process, and I'll speak for myself, though I suspect I speak in even voice with those that share this table with me. It is very, very important for all of us to have the input along the way to continue to have a public input in open meetings such as this. So with that, we will close this matter, and I believe we're going to go to the second matter on our hearing, on our agenda, which is 28 Jefferson Street. I'm not qualified because I was absent the last meeting, so I will be stepping out. Swanton will take over, and everyone have a good evening, and we'll see you on the 15th.
Well, the second, what we're here.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, I'd like to move to our next hearing, which is a continuation of the 28 Jefferson hearing that we had weeks ago. I guess we will do it the way we always do it. We'll start with the applicant saying what's new. Then we'll take Any comments from the floor and any questions from the board? So, Ms. Mead, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Lisa Mead, lead time, Costa 30 Green Street in Newburyport. On behalf of JSJO Realty LLC, Joel Willett is here with me, and the architect on the project, Eileen Graff. At the last meeting, the next slide, the board requested some time to go out and actually view the property. In particular, there was a question about the location of the proposed location of the front of the garage. And so Joel was out and marked it. You would have had to go inside the garage to see the location, but there was a cone there. And also to take a look at a couple of other things. So we had heard from the neighbor regarding some concerns about the added second floor on the rear. So we took a look at that. Keeping in mind that the existing structure is more than 17 feet from the right side of the property line, and the neighbor's home is another 12 feet from the property line, for a total of 29 feet between the structures. That's not changing. We're going to present a redesign of the second floor, which we think does a number of things. It addresses the second floor addition on the rear next to the neighbor's house. There was also a comment from Mr. Delisle and Mr. Eigerman related to the width of the garage. And so we've addressed that too. So if you go to the next slide. Andy. So essentially, we've made the garage more narrow than the house. It's 21 feet 8 inches versus 23 before. We have reduced the ridge of the garage by 1 foot 6 inches. The garage distance from the street has changed slightly as well. And I'm gonna let Eileen go through this when she goes through the drawings, but it's actually 2 feet less than what was originally proposed, meaning it's 2 feet closer to the street than what was originally proposed, because of the adjustments related to the connection to the house as a result of the change of the roof line on the right side. And we removed the second story flat roof from the additional living space nearest to the north side abutter. The second story gable addition is now 8 inches more narrow on the rear, which achieves two things. It brings the ridge down by 4 inches, and you'll be able to see that in the drawings. It makes that more pronounced than it was before. And it pulls the nearest wall to the north abutter another 8 feet 4 inches back from that north corner wall. So it's further away from the abutter. And it's approximately now 41.5 feet away versus 33 feet before. Additionally, we've removed the rear porch behind the garage because of the adjustments to the garage. And now the second floor above the garage is actually connected to the second floor of the house because we lost that area on the north side. So it's now connected. So if you go to the next slide. So the site plans are a little bit different. They're harder to see here, but you can see the proposed addition in the back that's 83 square feet. That is part of that connection now in the back. And then we build the second story over the existing mudroom in the front, in between the garage and the house. And then with the proposed second story addition over the existing first floor addition. But importantly, you can see on this slide, you see that flat roof on the single story addition that exists. And it carries all the way from the front of that first floor, 1 story addition on the right side, all the way to the back with no roof on top of it. So that is not a change condition. We are not affecting that at all. Next slide, please. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eileen.
So to continue, as Lisa was just sort of to help describe the area that the change was. So this is the area right there on the second level that we had removed, and that was the flat roof section. So I'm just pointing it out there. So from the street face, the whole right side is not going to change. That 1 story piece will not change from the street elevation. At what this drawing will probably most easily convey is we are now connected on the second floor. So that's the part that I want to demonstrate in this floor plan. But if we can go to the next slide, please, Andy. So here's an example of what we used to have. The previous meeting we were at, and you can see that right side addition on the second story. And right there, that's the piece that we have removed. I've included this slide because what I wanted to add was this information here, just as a reference. So the dimensions there of what we had in the last iteration is what I want to reference. And then if we go to the next slide, mostly just, and it might even be helpful to kind of flip back and forth, but to show the changes from the last iteration to now. And what happened is with the garage piece, instead of being 23 wide, we're now 21.8. And what we did was we held the left side of the property of the building line, and we squeezed the garage to 21.8, pulling it away from the original house. When you squeeze that gable in, by virtue of making it narrower, our ridge comes down a little bit. In addition, we also I lowered the top of wall. So it also just came from those two moves, brought the ridge down. So again, what you're seeing, the difference there is 1'6" in decrease from the ridge height. Again, all lower, as you can see from the existing house. So it's simply, the dimensions there are simply just for reference to show the scale change. When that happened too, the dormers that are the shed roof dormers that are there, they've also slightly changed in pitch, because as we come lower, we have to bring those as well to meet that new ridge line. As part of the change in shifting away and losing some of that square footage on the right side, again over here, in plan, it made sense for us to join on the second floor. So thus you're seeing a connection. You'll see right above here is just a connector piece there is how we connect to the main house. So on the next slide, we'll see it from the side. So here you can see the continuous shed roof that exists today. And this is the same here. With the only change is that now this piece here has moved away from the property line, again, approximately 8'4". So now with this new change, that roof height is also further away than what was proposed the last round. And also by virtue of taking this gable and making it skinnier, which I'll show in the next elevation, it too had a slight decrease in the ridge height. And then on this view, another change that happened is we've removed the covered porch that was on the rear. So again, minimizing the massing that was on the backside of the project. Next slide. So here is where we can see again from the rear, this is the piece that came off. And by this piece here, this is the gable that I'm referring to that squeezed in together. What it did was drop it slightly from lower than the original. In doing so, and then this is showing that lower ridge line as well. So, and then of course you can see the removed covered porch on this elevation. And then one more slide. And then here, as mentioned earlier, so in order to make this connection to the main house, the original historic house, that I had to increase the length of the garage by a foot. But at the same time, again, in an effort to try to minimize the impact on the rear, I've slid it towards the street by a foot at the same time. So that was a slight shift just to, again, be conscious of some of the comments from the last meeting and just try to make the building impact. But otherwise, the garage here, you can see that it is very slightly 1'6" here in this elevation. And then again, the ridge on the addition on the back on the second gable is also a decrease as well in ridge height. And then one more slide. No,
Yeah, so I added the slides again of the existing conditions, so and you can kind of fly through those. I think everybody saw this last time. Again, that's not going to change at all. That one story right there. Rear change is going to be in the back. There's that rear. addition that exists. So, with that, we want to say that we believe that we removed any impact, if any, to the property on the north property line. We reduced the height of the garage, we reduced the height of the width of the garage, we reduced the roof line on the gable in the rear. I want to remind the board that this property is 14,410 square feet. The open space was proposed at 78.7%, and it's now 80.1%, where the requirement is 40%. The lot coverage was proposed at 16.2%. It's now 15%, where the requirement is 25%. The garage is further from the street than the existing garage, and more narrow than the home. The addition at the rear is lower and doesn't interfere with the existing ridge line, and is now even more pronounced than it was before. And we believe it's still compatible with the other homes in the neighborhood, certainly not substantially more detrimental, where substantially means to a significant or greater extent. And we think the board can find that with these changes, the proposed changes are not substantially more detrimental than the remaining homes in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Meany. So now it's time for public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to speak? If so, yes, you're first.
Yeah, sure. I'm Joanne Clemens and I live in the house. I'm in a butter. And
What number just?
oh yeah, 26 Jefferson Street. Okay, so I bought my home 33 years ago. I bought it in the middle of the winter, sat at the garage, looked at the daily news, circled real estate listings, drove by 26 Jefferson Street, loved all the windows, have 23 windows on my unit. And I had a showing in March, sunshine streaming through the dining room and the kitchen. That's where I spend most of my time, and that's where I spend most of my time during the fall and winter months. So the last meeting, we talked about a shade and sun study, really easy to do. I've looked it up. I've worked in technology before. Very simple, very cheap, a lot cheaper than paying, I think, an attorney $500 an hour. So I look forward to seeing the sun shade study that was talked about in the last meeting. Some of the members were actually going to walk up and down the sidewalk to actually look at the lot, because as of the last meeting, none of the members of the board, and I appreciate your efforts, I know you're a volunteer group, had even looked at the property. Okay, so those two things are going to be done. And Mr. Bennett, I really appreciate the education that you gave me in the last meeting on common law. And if you look at the letter I wrote to Mr. JSJO and the Unitarian Church, I looked at common law.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I loaded it today.
Holiday drinking.
I know. I study common law and equity in law. So, and which is why I actually looked at your website and you actually had equity in there. And I agree with you. Common law is not very practical, which is why we have statutes, ordinances, procedures, and laws, right? But I also looked up today, and it'll be interesting to know this, that Massachusetts is one of the most common law equity in law friendly states in the US. Did you know that? Okay. Okay. But anyway, so I stand like I did 2 weeks ago. And again, look forward. The assertion of there's no impact on me is false, because there's no evidence provided by the attorney or the developer. Thank you.
Thank you. Would somebody else here like to make any public comments, either for or against, or just ask questions or make any comments of any kind? All right, seeing none, we're still doing hybrid.
And this was, I think, our last meeting. Yeah, we had no hand up.
It's online anyway. All right. So somebody online would like to speak. You should push the raise my hand button. But seeing no hand, going once and twice. All right, we'll close public comment and we'll go to questions from the board. Who would like to begin?
Well, I have one question. It's just a dimension. I can see it on the plan. So if you go to slide 5 of tonight's presentation, which is the floor plan. This plan view, and focus on the side entry on the ground floor. Just ballpark, what's the dimension of those? Yeah, so there's actually an overhang of the second floor. The difference between the second floor and where the plane of the front door is, was it about 3 feet or?
It's about ballpark, about 4 feet.
4 feet, okay. And then the eave hangs over. Is that what I'm saying? The roof above, that's
Correct.
actually the eave.
About 2 feet.
Question.
I had a question. I think we talked about this in the last meeting, but I don't remember what the, if we did, I don't remember what the answer was. Why did you propose to go from the attic window to this louvered?
We did talk about, it is because.
Yeah, I'm sorry, could you refresh my memory? on
Sure.
that?
No. So when you had asked the question a couple weeks ago, it relates back to the space internally. So inside there's what's happening is the ceiling height on the second floor is changing. It's only attic space above.
Right, okay.
So when that ceiling height, it's rather low in ceiling height on the second floor.
Sure.
So we have the intention of moving the ceiling height up, but when that happens, we have a collision with them.
So your ceiling height falls somewhere in the window?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
That's unfortunate. Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything?
I have a question.
I just want to address, something the abutter brought up, you asked about shade and sun studies. I want to assure you that in my 6 years of on the board, I've never seen a shade and sun study. Someone may have commented that we could do that. Just want to assure you that it's not like we dropped the ball on this one. I've never seen one done in any residential project in Newburyport. So I just want to indicate that. I don't have any other question, wrong question, any question. So that moves us to deliberations. And I want to remind everyone, this requires 4 votes, so it requires 4. Who would like to begin deliberation?
Well, of course. So I did go to the site twice, actually. So I went before the cone was put in, and then again, just I did walk up the driveway to see the. I looked at the angles that the public would see from both sidewalks, both sides of the street. I turned on Merrimack. So first I want to address the impact on the larger neighborhood, and then test. And I think with the changes, I can envision how this is going to look, and I think it is not substantially more detrimental. It is a significant size garage looking thing, but being set back 26 feet from the street is going to make a big difference. And I was asking about the connector at the first floor. So when you have that in out, that will also help break up the mass so that it's not overwhelming. And under our standards, you're supposed to look at the context of the lot, the existing building, and the neighborhood, all 3, and also possible alternatives. And I think that the changes made are helpful on that side to make it not substantially detrimental, and it fits. It is true. I think the chair noted at the last meeting, most of the lot, of course, is in back. But I think the architect has taken that into account by it's a rectangular garage addition, and the long part is going in the back, so it'll be less visible to the public. which is abutting the northern, neighbor. I did look carefully. I'm actually, pleased that, the addition in the back is no longer going all the way across the existing first floor addition done in 1997. I think it's a better architectural design. And I think it will also further mitigate shadowing. Now let's get to shadow impact. I was the one who noted that, it is possible to do shadow studies. In my experience, not just on this board, but elsewhere, for a residential project of this scale, I've never seen one required. It's really for buildings that shadow studies are required. But also, as I noted, we do absolutely take to heart the impact, and I didn't understand the record as showing that there's no impact. There is. It's just that it's not a significant impact or that would make the project substantially more detrimental with the meaning of our code. And I'll explain that. So I don't deny at all the evidence at certain times of the year. Probably there'll be, because of the garage addition, there'll be times when the sun is low and will not reach the abutter's house as it has. I think it's undeniable fact, and actually the acting chair asked about that last time. These are the photographs, but in the grand scheme of things, as far as the significance of the impact, I just don't think it's significant. I think, again, in my experience and understanding of dimensions, the heights involved roughly 30 feet away. I don't think it actually is going to be nearly as bad as the abutter fears. And it certainly isn't something that would be deny the project. Everything. Oh, I did have, there are some design details. I did think about the louver. I mean, I agree with my colleague, Mr. Delisle. I mean, it's kind of a bummer that you're going to lose that attic window. What can I say? It's substantially more detrimental to put in a louver. I've heard about that. I don't think I can. I think it's a shame, but it's not the top. Also, you're doing party board on the side, and that's perfectly understandable because I want to do some insulation. So you have to take all the siding off and do that. Again, it's a bit of a shame because it's probably over flabbers. It's probably good stuff, but understood. And then nitpicking two windows are fine. Late 19th century. That would have been fine with the neighborhood. I guess the one thing I would hope is that the windows are wooden sash and not plastic. That's it.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Oh, yes. Sorry.
The applicant would take the condition that the third floor window on either end would be a fake, what do you call it? Imposter window. So it would look like a window, but it's not really a window.
Yeah.
If you want to put a condition in that the louver window is changed to a.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
I guess I'm first. Yeah, I would just concur with what Mr. Igerman said. I think that, the concerns that I raised last time have been met with respect to the new part of the structure being subordinate to the old existing building. I think you guys did a really nice job of doing that and pulling it away from the northern lot line was also, and bringing it down a foot and forward a foot, I think is helpful to getting to a positive result for me. I do agree with Mr. Igerman that there will be some loss of sunlight during some times of the year. But it's difficult, especially considering we are looking at the zoning matrix as well as the massing of the project. And from my perspective, as well as Mr. Eigenman's perspective, it's not a situation where this is substantially more detrimental than what exists currently. So I think with that said, I'm able to support this.
Panic?
My colleagues have said, well, I would just say that, again, I appreciate Ms. Clemens and your spirited presentation. I really do appreciate it. I just wanted to say that with respect to one, the applicant here, I thought did a very incredible job in attempting to address and addressing to a certain extent, and not to the extent that you would like issues relating to the sunlight. So take that as a positive. Secondly, Mr. Delisle mentioned the notion of being subordinate to the main structure. That two ways, one saying that too narrow. And we're all development plans on motion, you see what happens in the case, but all those reasons can support this. And despite the fact that there will be nominal or some impact on lighting, I think as we live in cities, we have trade-offs. We trade off the convenience of the hospital getting a for that a certain amount of privacy. We accept noise, we accept some intrusion into our youth. So I think that this project strikes a fair balance, and I trust it is one of those cases.
Thank you. And for myself, I do want to indicate that I was there before the series. Look at it, but I did go back and I appreciate it. I've never had an invitation to walk into someone's garage and check where the cone is. I did that. I think my colleagues have said, well, I think to the abutter, if we did not allow people to expand buildings that were 30 feet away from another house in Newburyport, very little would ever be built. Because everybody is close to each other in the city. So I do appreciate that they, like my colleagues have said, that have taken down the right side. The addition was on top of the bump out on the right side. And I was surprised, to me, that the big change on the left was the reduction in height. The left extension is almost exactly the same width. I know the garage got a little narrower, but the connector was a little wider. So it was the diminution of height to me that really helped. But anyway, with that said, there are no new nonconformities, and I agree with my colleagues that this is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what's currently there. So with that, we move to a vote. I need a motion. Does this involve the sidewalk, tree and sidewalk? Well, someone needs to craft the motion with that in mind.
I don't remember what did the tree warden say?
Trees. Planting 2 trees.
On the sidewalk condition as well, proposed.
Okay, I move to approve the application with 2 provisos. One, that the recommendation of city staff be made a condition of approval. So if there are 2 street trees and replacement of the sidewalk,
Some of the panels.
Yep, some of the panels.
Okay, and then
Not all services, Wayne was gonna confirm which ones with the applicant, there's not all.
okay, it's not a complete replacement. Understood.
Right.
For city staff. And then the second proviso is to, in place of the louver on the attic, do a same dimension as the existing window, but a false window, false, black.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. It's time to vote. Okay,
Yeah. Yes.
all right,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that's 4 in the affirmative, the motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right, that gets us to approval of minutes from last meeting. I made one little tweak to them when I got here, and it was kind of burden scene on 320 Merrimack Street with Mr. Delisle. Made a motion. Move the word move. Anyway. Does anybody else have anything else, or can we vote on the minutes of the last meeting? All in favor? Andy, is there anything to talk about?
I don't think so, no.
You want?
Of course.
Unless you had any.
No, I mean, I think Rob's already said it. Our next meeting will be starting deliberations, and Gareth will be here. So.
Yeah, Gareth, go.
There's something else that matters.
Sorry?
Nothing else.
Nothing else that
I think
matters.
we have 40 days.
Yeah.
We don't have to finish that.
We have to.
Right, it's just gonna kick off. Yeah,
Okay.
and, yeah, we can confer that in a minute. Yeah.
I suspect we will need another special meeting, and because the one meeting that we currently have in the window before we have to decide is already quite long.
Okay.
Yeah, we could, I mean, we'll talk about it with Gary. But I think when we meet next week, we'll talk about submitting our own proposed conditions of approval. But it's unclear to me whether Garrett thinks they're allowed or not.
Allowed to provide.
Provide their own.
Oh.
I've seen it done both ways. Yeah.
Well, maybe you could ask Gareth that before the meeting.
Yeah, just to be clear, I plan on working with Gareth.
Yeah.
Put that together, but again, mainly guiding.
You want us to
I know that it's trying to meet with it and we sort of format, so to speak, of the students, so to speak, and I know that anything that she thinks is relevant, but again, obviously, back to both Garrett, that's coming from the board and from legal counsel working with the board.
You want us to submit our proposed?
That would be very helpful if you want us to get it along, it'll help us to move that along and bring it to you in a better format.
All right, so I guess what I'm thinking, Ken, is next week, we talk about substantively where we're headed on the vote, and then the wordsmithing.
That allows us to craft between now and
And
then.
then staff has Christmas to wordsmith, and then we actually, after January, vote on it.
Right, and you can decide at that point if it's, adequate, if you want to have to modify anything up that. It's gonna be in January.
I don't know if it's. Hey, can I
got a project.
I just wanted to mention that we did have a little, Andy and I and Rob and Gareth had a brief meeting last week. Can I mention that?
Yeah.
With the mayor and talk some of this through before it goes live.
Okay.
So it's, and I just want to mention that could.
All right, fair enough.
All right. Promotion to,
Motion to adjourn.
second favor?